nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerds.
So I just came back from Insidious 4. This is totally true. This is my favorite of the series. It somehow has become that. And I think this is something I mentioned to Adam. I think part of that has to do with that there are certain physical stakes in this one. Not to spoil anything, but there's like a kind of story that's about abuse. There's an overall history that feels broader. Where I feel like the first Insidiouses are kind of like cozy and intimate, and they're about this like little focused thing. And here it's like kind of wide. So. How do you feel about that? Like, do you like this opening up of the series, of the storyline?
Absolutely. I mean, thank you for saying that. That was the intention of this film. You know, writing the fourth film was kind of difficult because having made 3 in the past, you've covered a lot of ground. There's not a lot left to say. You know, at least that's how I felt for the first couple of months of writing. And then finally I decided the best way to go forward was to expand it, just as you said, to sort of rip the film out of a house. You know, as you said, we've dealt with these haunted houses and these intimate spaces with families. I was thinking of leaving, you know, going to a different state, going to New Mexico, discovering Lynn's childhood and kind of opening up the world a little bit to find out a little more. So if that's what people take away from the film, then I'm really happy because that was the intention.
and you know, the idea that this explores some very dark places that often people keep secret in their own lives. I think that with the expansion of the story comes that as well, this sort of stimulation of the viewer to maybe revisit some places in their life they haven't revisited for a long time. I think it's going to open some chapters for people as well, subliminally in an insidious way. You know,
There's a lot of tie-ins to the franchise there.
Really?
Chapters, Insidious.
Hey, I studied my book.
Yeah, it's the key to unlocking something.
Yeah, it's the key to unlocking
Right.
You know.
No, it's true. And I guess there's a thing in like the other films where a lot of it seems to be like it's not this person's fault. Like it's these demons that are like doing this thing. And here I feel like fault is treated a little differently. Like it's like maybe there are some things that like you ignored or didn't pay attention to.
I agree, and again, especially because we don't find out the final layer of that for a while. I think it does make you again visit the human part of abuse and family.
Yeah. So, I mean, and with that in mind, like, do you feel, as a horror filmmaker in general, as a horror writer, that horror should be evoking aspects of, like, the present era, should be speaking to something of the now, or do you think it can exist in its own separate?
That's a great question.
Yeah, kind of.
I think it can do both. I mean, the great thing about working in the creative arts and screenwriting is there are no rules, but I think that a great thing for horror right now would be to reflect our current society. I think horror does that well. You can kind of bury the metaphor pretty deep in a horror film, you know, and I think there's been a history of that throughout the years of horror films that have had something to say about our current world without directly saying it. Even if you think of Night of the Living Dead and a lot of these George Romero films that were like really metaphorical films for whether it was Vietnam or him talking about consumerism in America. And I think horror is a good genre for that. Because you can go to the movie and you can get the themes from it, or you can just sit there and enjoy it as a horror movie. If you look at something like Get Out, which came out earlier this year, it's such the themes in it are so strong about racism in the US and the African American experience. But you could also just watch it as an entertaining, really well crafted horror film. So I think a great direction for horror to go in right now would be to reflect the world as it is right now. Back to us. I think the world is a turbulent place right now, you know, socially, politically, in every way, and horror should definitely step into that zone. I feel, you know, everybody's always asking, where is horror going next? Well, I think this reflecting the real world, as you say, I think that's the best place for it to go.
And I think it makes it palatable. People don't even know exactly what they're experiencing, and people who don't want to deal with any of that, and then they go, even if it is entertainment, that it comes in a food they can digest.
It's like it's cathartic for people who haven't even confronted this stuff. You know, so yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting topic.
I think this movie lands in that space pretty well.
That's great.
Oh, great!
Thank you.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. shake your booties for black girl nerds.